The story begins during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, who conquered Jerusalem and took many Israelites captive, including a young nobleman named Daniel. Along with his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, renamed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel was selected to be trained in the royal court. The king wanted to train these men in Babylonian culture, including their language, literature, and customs. Despite the king's orders to eat rich food from his table, Daniel and his friends chose to honor their faith by requesting a simple diet of vegetables and water. God blessed their obedience, and after 10 days, they appeared healthier and stronger than those who ate the king's food. As a result, Daniel and his friends were allowed to continue their diet, and God gave them knowledge and wisdom. Daniel was even given the gift of interpreting dreams. Nebuchadnezzar had a troubling dream that none of his wise men or magicians could interpret. Furious, the king ordered the execution of all the wise men in Babylon, including Daniel and his friends. However, Daniel prayed to God, and the mystery of the dream was revealed to him. Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar that his dream was of a large statue made of various materials, gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay, which represented a succession of empires. A stone not cut by human hands struck the statue, causing it to crumble, symbolizing that God's kingdom would eventually destroy all human kingdoms and last forever. Amazed, Nebuchadnezzar praised Daniel's God and promoted him to a high position in the kingdom, along with his 3 friends. Nebuchadnezzar later built a giant golden statue and commanded all people to worship it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to bow down, remaining faithful to their God. The king threatened to throw them into a fiery furnace, but they remained steadfast in their faith, saying, "Our God is able to deliver us, but even if he doesn't, we will not bow." Enraged, Nebuchadnezzar ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual and threw them into the flames. The fire was so intense that the soldiers who carried them were killed. However, as Nebuchadnezzar watched, he saw 4 figures walking unharmed in the fire, the 4th looking like a son of the gods. God had sent an angel to protect them. Nebuchadnezzar called them out of the furnace, and they emerged without a single burn. The king praised the God of Israel, acknowledging his power. Nebuchadnezzar had another dream, this time of a great tree that was cut down but left with its roots in the ground. None of his wise men could interpret the dream, so he called on Daniel. Daniel explained that the tree symbolized the king himself. Because of Nebuchadnezzar's pride, he would be humbled and driven to live like a wild animal for 7 years until he acknowledged God's sovereignty over all kingdoms. A year later, as Nebuchadnezzar boasted about his greatness, the prophecy was fulfilled. He lost his sanity and lived like a beast, eating grass until he recognized God's rule. After the 7 years, his kingdom was restored, and he praised God for his justice and mercy. Many years later, during the reign of King Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar's successor, a great banquet was held, and the king used sacred vessels from the temple in Jerusalem to drink wine and praise the gods of gold, silver, and other materials. Suddenly, a mysterious hand appeared and wrote on the wall, terrifying the king. Belshazzar's wise men could not interpret the writing, so Daniel was summoned. He explained that the message, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin, meant that God had numbered Belshazzar's days, weighed him in the balance, and found him wanting. That very night, the Medes and Persians invaded Babylon, killed Belshazzar, and took over the kingdom. Under the new rule of King Darius of the Medes, Daniel rose to prominence because of his wisdom and integrity. However, some of the king's administrators grew jealous and plotted against him. Knowing that Daniel prayed 3 times a day to God, they convinced Darius to issue a decree that anyone who prayed to any god or man other than the king for 30 days would be thrown into the lion's den. Despite the decree, Daniel continued to pray to God as usual. When the officials reported him, Darius, though distressed, was forced to follow through with the law. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, but God sent an angel to shut the mouths of the lions, and Daniel remained unharmed. The next morning, the king was overjoyed to find Daniel alive and ordered his accusers to be thrown into the den, where they were immediately devoured. Darius praised the God of Daniel and issued a decree that all in his kingdom should fear and reverence the God of Israel.